Hey folks, this is BestInSlot and welcome back to our Mods of the Week Spotlight series for Jurassic World Evolution 2. Mods of the Fortnight today because things are slowed down a little bit in the modding community. I think because we're expecting the DLC to come out fairly soon, things always slow down a little bit before that happens because you never know what's going to happen when an update hits. We're expecting that update pretty soon, in the next few weeks. I'm actually expecting a teaser for it tomorrow or on Wednesday, so definitely check out the channel in the next couple of days and I'll bring you that information when we have it, if I got my prediction correct at the very least. But that's very important to talk about because, disclaimer, mods can cause problems with your game, especially when there is an update. Now, of course, we don't even know about the update yet. There's plenty of time to mess around and have some fun with mods, but just be aware that when there's an update, it can cause problems with your save and stuff if it's heavily modded. So it's always a good idea to finish your builds and stuff like that. Generally speaking, it's fine. Frontier hasn't broken mods for a long time now. There was a problem at the start, but now it seems largely okay. But it's worth keeping in mind regardless. And if there is a problem, it's not my fault, it's not the mod maker's fault, and it's not Frontier's fault. Right, we've got 7 new species, well 6 new species and a variant to check out today, so let's get started. And very cool, we are kicking things off with a awesome Kaprosuchus by Mitchell Productions and Trip. Kaprosuchus is a crocodiliform from late Cretaceous Niger. The name means boar crocodile, and you can kind of see why if we come down here. Named as such because of these huge canines. Now, the evidence for Kaprosuchus is basically a single specimen, a single skull, but it's a really well-kept skull, and it's got these gigantic canines, these set of 3 in particular that jut out up and down. And they kind of resemble a boar's tusks, so the crocodile form has the nickname the boar croc, and that's what Kaprosuchus means, and I've lost it. There it is. Now, debate has long raged, I should say if I was speaking English, as to whether Kaprosuchus was terrestrial or semi-aquatic. You would think, looking at it, semi-aquatic, but it's not a given, to say the least. It has terrestrial features. You can kind of see with the eyes that they are lateral, they're facing out laterally. If you see like a modern crocodilian, they're kind of more sitting on top of the head, wouldn't have this side bit, and the reason is that kind of lets it sit above water and look out perfectly and see everywhere, whereas Kaprosuchus, as you can see, doesn't have that. However, it does have features of semi-aquatic crocodilomorphs as well, like the snout being this sort of long tubular sort of shape, and its close relative, Maraapunisaurus, was thought to be fully aquatic, so the chances are it probably dabbled in an aquatic lifestyle, but it's still a little bit up for debate. Did you really have to go to sleep right now? What's really cool about this thing though, as you can see kind of with that sort of raised back half of the body, this thing is of course on the Indoraptor rig, which I think is a really interesting choice and makes a lot of sense for a crocodilomorph like this. And it suits it really well. It's a bit weird that it's so raised up at the back, but you know, it's kind of a small price to pay. It's got that the sort of stalking motion it's got, and the leg placement and stuff like that feels very, very appropriate for the Indoraptor. So I mean, one day maybe we can rig things so that we can sort of bring this lower half down, but it's not outside of the realm of possibilities. It could have moved like this. I really like this patterned one as well. These kind of stroked sort of lines we've got going down there along the body, these lovely shapes. It's really good. We've seen this before, of course, in aquatic form, and now we're seeing it in terrestrial form, and it's really, you are sleeping forever. It's really cool to have the mix here, loads of lovely different colours. Shout out to Mitchell, really good start to the day. That's why sauropods take so long. Our next creature is the gigantic sauropod Maraapunisaurus by Master Dude. I'm going to say Punisaurus. Now, this is a sauropod from late Jurassic North America from the famous Morrison Formation, and it's quite a controversial dinosaur. Mara was discovered back in 1878 by the famed paleontologist Edward Cope, who was at the time having the bone wars between him and Marsh. Now, only a single bone was discovered for Maraapunisaurus, a partial vertebra. And it's long been since lost to time. They think that the area it was discovered was so falling apart that the bone likely didn't survive very long whatsoever. So all we have of that vertebrate, all we have of this dinosaur in terms of the records, is a single drawing. Only one drawing as well from one angle that Cope did of that vertebrate. That's all the evidence we have for Maraapunisaurus. Now, he also gave sizes. Now, based on those size estimates from that drawing, a lot of people have put Maraapunisaurus as actually the largest dinosaur ever discovered, if, you know, you scale up from that vertebra logically based on similar dinosaurs. But because there is no surviving evidence, there's no photograph, we have a singular drawing with, like, Cope's estimates of the size. It's really impossible to confirm. It could well be the biggest dinosaur ever discovered, but it's not likely we're ever going to find out. I love these spikes we've got. It's kind of got that Ankylodocus kind of effect here, but a little spiking, and it's much more subtle in the rest of this body. Lovely swooping patterns going on here. It's really nice to just see another sauropod as well. You know, we don't get enough sauropods in terms of new mods and stuff like that. And they've kind of been able to just invent a sauropod, essentially, because like I said, we only had a single vertebra, so they can kind of do what they like. We've got that lovely thick long tail, you know, it's really chunky at the base and then sweeps out there, gets skinnier and skinnier. Really interesting head shape as well, quite different than all the other sauropods in the game. And I do quite like the spikes. They may be a little bit much for my own personal taste, but that doesn't mean they're not accurate. It doesn't mean we don't have sauropods with adornments just like this, and little ones there along the neck as well. Just a really cool looking sauropod with a really interesting piece of history, so credit to Master Doot. That's a dramatic exit. So this is Unaysaurus by Hokal1215. A really interesting dinosaur, in case you can't tell already. This is a sauropodomorph from late Triassic Brazil. So eventually, a long time away, these would develop into the sauropods that we know and love. You can kind of see it a little bit. We've got that elongated neck and the small head, the big, thick rear legs, but there's a long way to go for this little guy to eventually grow into what we would, well, like the Maraapunisaurus, for example. So, oh, I love this burst of colour on that one. That looks fantastic. Unaysaurus. So, because it's late Triassic, even late Triassic, it's one of the earliest dinosaurs ever known about, you know, just by virtue of being a Triassic dinosaur. My temptation, you'll see the name is Unaysaurus. My temptation was very much to call it Unaysaurus, but it is actually pronounced Unahi, or I think it's Unahi. Unahi, or Unehi, or Unahi. Unaysaurus. And Unahi means black water in the Tupi language, which is a indigenous group of languages from southern Brazil, which is, as I say, where Unahi was discovered. It's one of those dinosaurs that I have heard of and I think I've pronounced incorrectly in the past, so it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, it looks really good. I love seeing sauropodomorphs in the game. They're really rare. Do we have any sauropodomorphs in default Evolution 2? Not really, because we lack Triassic in general. They're really interesting body shapes. You know, there's nothing quite like them in the game, with that really long neck but still walking bipedally. I think is really interesting. I think this is really some of Hokal's best work in terms of coloration and pattern and stuff like that. This one with its tail dipped in blood. Got these speckles along the back and then these triple stripes along the back as well. It looks fantastic. That one's drowning itself, which is fun. This one with that bright burst of blue. Just, yeah, works really well. Rigs really well, considering the really bizarre shape and everything like that. Looks fantastic, and I'd love to see more. You know, we don't have a Plateo at the moment either, I don't think. I am realising I shouldn't have put the hatchery in the water, by the way. So I was really excited about this one. This is Centrosaurus by Master Doot. And the reason I was excited about this one is because the game lacks ceratopsids in a lot of ways. When's the last time we had... First of all, we don't get very many ceratopsid mods. And also, when's the last time we had a DLC ceratopsid? I think, like, Pachyrhinosaurus was for free, and I don't think in Evolution 2 we've had a single ceratopsid via DLC. It's been incredibly neglected as a group of dinosaurs. It really has. And it's not that there aren't unique ones out there. I think the Centrosaurus with this really unique sort of frill formation could be a really interesting DLC dinosaur, but we just don't get ceratopsids. So, Centrosaurus by Master Duke, commissioned by Dinosaur, is a ceratopsid from late Cretaceous Canada, from the famed Dinosaur Park formation. Famous in particular for these hornlets, of course, around the frill, which is what gives the dinosaur its name, Centrosaurus, the pointed lizard. Now, Centrosaurus is a very well-known dinosaur. There are huge quantities of fossil material found for Centrosaurus in these bone beds that extend for hundreds of meters, with in total, across all of the different bone beds, thousands of like specimens for Centrosaurus. The most prominent of these bone beds is what's known as the Hilda megabone bed, containing an estimate of up to 1,600 specimens of Centrosaurus in that single bone bed collection on its own. Now, it's likely so many animals in one place, they probably drowned and got beaten up a little bit trying to cross like a flooding river or something like that, and that's why there's so many of them together in one area, or like a rockfall or something like that. But 1,600 plus is so many. They likely drowned trying to cross a river. Maybe the river suddenly started to flood. I don't know. But there's tons of different specimens of different quality, different age groups. You know, there's juveniles, sub-adults, full adults and stuff like that. And I just try to think, like we see it in modern times, of course. Oh, see, they look great together. You know, you look in Africa and you see like gigantic herds of wildebeest. But this was a big dinosaur. You know, it's not the biggest ceratopsid out there, but it's a large dinosaur. It really is. Imagine seeing 1,600 died, and some have assumedly been lost to time, but obviously some would have survived. So imagine seeing thousands of these things at a time crossing, and we don't. Do you just try to bite his tail off? I don't think we see things like that rendered in paleo media very often. I think dinosaurs, the way we treat them in paleo media, we tend to have them quite solitary or in small herds and stuff like that. But this was a gigantic group, all perishing. And yeah, looks fantastic by Master Duke. Really cool to see them tackling a ceratopsid. Really evocative on the frill, as you would expect. In particular, really lovely. Trying to find one a bit more light. Really lovely patterning. Love this sort of sunburst here, in particular at the top of the frill. Lots of very powerful striping as well, and there's lovely kind of scratchy kind of striping going down the really nicely textured body as well. Really, really good looking, and fantastic new ceratopsid to have in the game. Something we desperately need. So yeah, really, really happy with this one, and has an interesting story behind it, which is always a bonus. This one went a little bit crazy, so I didn't get the exit animation, but this little fella down here is Halszkaraptor by Hokal1215, and I'm just going to leave this on pause for a second, because it's going to be very hard to see otherwise. And as told by the fact that one keeps disappearing. So Halszkaraptor, Halszka, it's Halszz, which is really interesting. This is actually a Dromaeosaurid, interestingly enough, from late Cretaceous Mongolia. Very similar, as you can see, to modern waterfowl. But Hals, despite those similarities, isn't confirmed to be an aquatic feeder. It kind of screams aquatic feeder from the look of it. Researchers are still arguing, kind of like Kaprosuchus, to this day whether it was adapted for such a lifestyle. It has a low bone density, which typically doesn't suggest aquatic feeding. However, there are some extant avian dinosaurs that do have low bone density, but have adapted for some aquatic feeding, like swans, for example, have quite low bone density, but are capable of some form of aquatic feeding. So we don't really know for sure, but it's really interesting. I mean, it's really just interesting to see this as a Dromaeosaurid. It's such a... Tell you what, I'm just going to change the texture of the ground so you can see the blimmin' thing. It's such a contrast with so many of the Dromaeosaurids we know. You know, it's cool to see Dromaeosaurs having such variety. You know, talking our large Dromaeosaurids, our Utahraptors and stuff like that, and then you've got this weird little dude who's just like a little, very, very similar to a modern avian... Hello, Centrosaurus. Our modern avian dinosaurs, our modern birds. And instead it's this weird little dude. So this is really well made. I can't imagine this was easy to get this rigging and working properly like this and have it look like a proper little bird strutting along the beach like it does. We've got this lovely little tail fan at the back. Of course, we've got those wing feathers as well. You can't zoom in too close. It's got this tiny little beak poking out there, a little bit of a quiff of feathers at the back as well. And the rest of the body is more... It's It's very chicken-like, isn't it? It's kind of like a smattering of feathers. It's not fully downed in feathers. It's got like a light smattering of feathers, a sort of downy covering, and then of course the bigger bits of the wings and at the back of the tail. It's just a really interesting addition to the game. Again, very much unlike anything we've got in the game at the moment. Very unique, you know, closest to Maraapunisaurus, I guess, in terms of being a small feathered dinosaur, but very, very stands out. That's right, very, very stands out. You heard me, that's good English. And you wouldn't think English was my best subject sometimes. Yeah, it looks fantastic. Really well done by Halszkaraptor again, who's really brought their game these last couple of weeks. I tell you, there's some fantastic additions to the game. And I think they make a really cool, like, ambient creature, you know, was strutting around, the Centrosaurus there drinking, and then you got these little Halszkaraptors just strutting their stuff on the beach nearby. I think it's a really cool combination, and a very, very cool addition to the game in general. So our final new terrestrial species is this really beautiful Saurolophus made by Master Doot, commissioned once again by Dinosaur. Saurolophus, a hadrosaurid from late Cretaceous Asia, well known for this sort of head crest spike in particular. Known from late Cretaceous Asia and also from North America, from Horseshoe Canyon and from the famed Nemegt Formation. And this actually makes it somewhat unique. There aren't that many dinosaur genera that were found on multiple continents. Tyrannosaurus would be another example with Rex and Batar, but there aren't that many of them, so it makes Saurolophus quite unique. And of course you'll have recognised the name Saurolophus. So discovered back in 1911, Saurolophus ended up being quite important for future dinosaur discoveries, and just sort of as a reference material for other hadrosaurids. So that's why we have, for example, Prosaurolophus, which means, what is it? Where is it? I've lost it. Means before Saurolophus, before Prosaurolophus, before Saurolophus, so we're kind of using it as a timer. And of course, Parasaurolophus, which means near Saurolophus. So this dinosaur would go on to really help define the group and help define hadrosaurids in a lot of ways. Very important dinosaur in that context. And really beautiful. It's a really interesting looking hadrosaurid. Doesn't really look like any we've got in the game. That striping is really evocative. Very nicely textured as well. Feels very real in its texturing, which is pretty great. And nice variety of colour. Love this little burst of orange there around the eyes. A really cool new hadrosaurid. Beauty, really, isn't it? It's cute. I don't know what it is about it, but it's very cute. And I really like the texture work. It's got this kind of almost carved out of stone look to it, which is really nice as well. That beak in particular, as you can see, has tons of texture on it. Really, really detailed and interesting looking. Thinking I should have released only one of these. So, here we go. What a beauty. I think I've done them all in the wrong colour, so you'll have to forgive me. It's kind of my fault, but, you know, it isn't mentioned on the mod page as far as I can tell. This is, of course, the Walking With Dinosaurs Liopleurodon, made by the 5 Devs, Game Videos for Life, and HWT. With 5 Devs doing the modelling, Game Videos for Life doing the skinning, and HWT doing the coding, if I remember correctly. Of course, based on Walking With Dinosaurs, it does have multiple skin colours. I'm just going to test this out. There we go. That's the beauty. You need to do the unpatterned version, and then you'll get this lovely thing right here. So, yeah, it's humongous. First of all, it's absolutely gigantic compared to the default. Tell you blimmin' what. Let's just make another one of those nice and quick. Liopleurodon, let's go, cosmetic set, default, yeah. There's a slight difference in size between the two. It's about 20 times the size. Because of course the Liopleurodon in Walking With Dinosaurs is dramatically outsized. It's much, much bigger than it should have ever been. But, yeah, beautiful creature. I mean, the fact that it's so much bigger than the default rig and yet it's still works so well. He's really impressive. The modelling is beautiful. The skin work, as you would expect from GVFL, is really, really nice as well. It really does feel like the Walking With Dinosaurs Liopleurodon come to life. It's this gigantic, majestic, terrifying beast. What a beaut. I'll have a little poke around. Even with the skin, you know, it's got this sort of brown overcoating on it, almost. Still looks really good. It obviously doesn't resemble the show as much, but still looks alright. It's a gorgeous creature. I really wish we had something a little bit more akin to this. Like, scale this down and make this the Liopleurodon, and I'd be pretty happy. The default Liopleurodon in this game is absolutely bonkers, so it would have been nice to see something more like this. But hey, now we get both, right? Thanks to the power of modding. So a gorgeous new Walking With Dinosaurs Liopleurodon. But yeah, looks really, really good. So shout out to 5Defs, the 5Defs, who I don't think I've seen many mods from before. So that's really interesting. GVFL and HWT. Shout out, of course, to all our mod makers today. So it's those three: Mitchell Productions, Trip, Master Doot, and Hokal1215, and Dinosaurana, who commissions some of these mods as well. And that's kind of important. Commissioning, you know, you're paying your own money, and then those mods get released to the world, so everyone benefits from them. And that's a pretty cool thing, I think. So as I say, oh, squeaky chair. I'm expecting the DLC within the next few weeks. So this might be the last mod spotlight for a little bit. We'll see what happens. Sometimes, you know, a new set of mods comes out, or a new DLC comes out, and like it's really exciting to mod, so we get tons of stuff really quickly. Sometimes people are holding off until the DLC comes out to release their mods, in general, in case things break, stuff like that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in the coming weeks, but some beautiful mods today, and really excited for the DLC. Come back this week. I am expecting a teaser, hopefully very soon, so of course I'll bring you all that information as soon as we get it. Shout out to the mod makers, go give them some love. I'll link all their mods down below in the description of the video as per usual, and all the mods we've ever covered here on Mods of the Week. That's about it. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you lovely folks very soon. Cheers, much as always. Bye-bye.
Road.